And joining us now is NBC News politics reporter Megan Brand at the White House. So, Megan, I'm old enough to remember when Michael Cohen was testifying trying to put Donald Trump in jail. How did their relationship get to this point now?
Yeah, it's a huge shift, Garrett. And just to take you back a little bit, I want to tell you a little bit about how they've previously talked about each other before, with Michael Cohen having previously called President Trump a racist, a con man, and a cheat, while President Trump, meanwhile, has called Cohen a sleazebag and a rat. So this conversation, though, took on a pretty different tone, and this was really a 180 from what their relationship had been like for the past couple of years. And so in that conversation that took place yesterday, Cohen had referred to President Trump as boss and had also floated the idea of some kind of press conference laying out the president's accomplishments. So a pretty different tone there, with Michael Cohen also, especially in those remarks that he made before and after that conversation aired, talking about the idea, indicating that the two had even forgiven each other, Garrett.
And Cohen obviously has some federal criminal convictions on his record. He served time in prison. There's obviously this question of whether this is all about seeking a pardon. I understand you have a new comment from the White House on that?
Yeah, so this comes yesterday after Cohen was asked in a CNN interview about whether he has asked President Trump for a pardon. And Cohen had said that he had not asked President Trump for that, but he had previously submitted a pardon application during the Biden administration, which had been rejected. Now, he had said that then he had resubmitted the application to the Trump administration and that it was on his to-do list to follow up about that. So we reached out to the White House to see if they might be able to provide a comment on Cohen's comments on CNN, and this is what a White House official said. They said that the submission of a pardon request should not be interpreted to mean anything other than an individual has chosen to submit a request. They wrote, the team that reviews clemency requests at the White House is not tracking this request at this time. The White House has a thorough review process for all clemency requests, with the president under his constitutional authority to be the ultimate decider. So something that we're tracking, Garrett, to see if that warmer conversation that took place yesterday potentially sways President Trump in terms of any consideration for a pardon for Michael Cohen.
Yeah, and despite everything the White House says about the process, we do all know ultimately this comes down to President Trump and what he decides. So we'll watch that space closely. Cohen has obviously been a fierce critic of the president. The president was kind of putting some words in his mouth a little bit yesterday, but how is his language now evolving?
Yeah, so it was interesting to see the difference in the language between these two men during this conversation. So you had Cohen really emphasizing forgiveness, the forgiveness aspect of this, particularly in his comments before and after. And he had said as well that, basically the idea that forgiveness is not about erasing history. It's about having the courage to decide that yesterday will no longer dictate tomorrow. But meanwhile, for President Trump, there were parts of this conversation that sounded a little bit more like something that you would hear in in one of his speeches or a campaign rally, where he talked about things like Iran, saying that he would make that decision again 100 times, emphasizing that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And so pretty different rhetoric coming from both of these men, but Michael Cohen really emphasizing forgiveness here, Garrett.
It's been an interesting 24 hours. Megan Brand, thank you for covering it for us.
Thank you.
And now from a card game.